This morning, we're going to be looking at the thought and the idea of thankfulness. And actually, it is demanded of us. We're going to begin looking in Psalm 107, but we're not going to look at the whole psalm because that psalm has 43 verses to it. We're going to be looking at verses 1 to 9 and then look at verse 43. But Psalm 107 is the beginning of book 5 in the book of Psalm. That's just a little trivia question. If it's trivial at all, I don't know. This does not concern, Psalm 107 does not concern itself with just Israel. While some of the events that are pointed out, or some of the situations pointed out, you could definitely plug in Israel and the history of Israel in there. But it isn't applying just to Israel. It is applying to all people in all generations. It's going through time in this. And the imagery here is showing that of God's salvation, of His mercy, of judgment, of protection, of His might and His power in nature. It is all incorporated in this in different sections. And once again, this is it would seem to be peering off into into history, but also into things that when Psalm 107 was written hadn't happened yet. Not necessarily saying that it's prophecy, but it sure sounds like it knows some things, that's for sure. And it starts like this. Oh, give thanks to the Lord, for He is good, for His mercy endures forever. Now, we could just stick on this verse if we wanted to, but we need to look at other things. So here is a command, give thanks to the Lord. And this is brought up repeatedly. This is 5 times this is brought up of give thanks to the Lord in this psalm, and it ends with the words, whoever is wise will observe these things. So it gives the command 5 times that of giving thanks to God, and then ends by saying, you're wise if you do it. You're wise. Let the redeemed, verse 2, let the redeemed of the Lord say so, whom He has redeemed from the hand of the enemy. Now, we could look at this and we could see, well, this applies to Israel. All right, we can go to the distant past with Egypt. We can go to the Philistines. We can go to the Hittites. We can also come more this direction in the New Testament with Roman courts or with false brethren or just with everybody concerning with Satan. That's going from first to last in the history of mankind on this earth, or with death itself, that He has redeemed us from the hand of the enemy, and that includes death, which hasn't happened yet, but it will. That's the last enemy to be defeated, and every enemy will be, Christ is going to have His foot on the neck of every one of His enemies, including death. All right? So with this, it's all who have been redeemed, and that's through the ages. And give thanks to God for the things that He has done instead of looking for the next complaint against Him, which I do believe that's what some people live for. I really think they've got an extremely bad attitude, and that God never does enough, and they are looking for the next complaint against Him. And that is a very bad place to be. He supplies what we cannot. And faith means you must follow Him. Because He has given us promises, and He has given us promises of deliverance. He has given us promises that He will help us. But, as we're going to find out in just a few more verses, you have to follow Him. You have to. Verse 3. And gathered out of the lands from the east and from the west and from the north and from the south. All right? Now this is probably the first good hint in this, that this doesn't just apply to what occurred in the history of Israel. Especially when we're talking about when Psalm 107 would have been written. That we see Christ has certainly done this. And that's precisely what he said was going to happen in Acts chapter 1 and verse 8 when he speaks of to the ends of the earth. That there will be those coming from every direction who will be brought into his kingdom. He has done this for us. They wandered in the wilderness in a desolate way. Look at this. They found no city to dwell in. Once again, we could think, okay, well, that's Israel in the wilderness. But I think it goes beyond that, especially when it's talking about they found no city to dwell in. We match it up with Hebrews 11 and 16. But now they desire a better, that is a heavenly country. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. It's not an earthly city. It's a heavenly city. That's a permanent place to live. And that is one that's not going to see famine or drought. That's one that's not going to see death or sickness in any way. They found no city to dwell in, but he's going to lead them there. We're in verse 4. In verse 7, he's going to lead them there. Now, hungry and thirsty, their soul fainted in them. Then they cried out to the Lord in their trouble, and he delivered them out of their distresses. He answers their prayers. All right, now God takes care of everybody. He does. He does. Everybody today, everybody living today, there's plenty of oxygen to breathe, plenty of air to breathe. All right, you don't have to worry about that. There is water to drink. You don't have to worry about that. He has supplied so much for us. Now here is the thing. He delivered them out of their distresses. You think He'd be greatly willing to do that if they never prayed to Him? You think that He would want to do that if they have learned no lesson whatsoever? Would He want to do that if they're just being rebellious to Him? Now, He does. He does. Because I have seen it of someone absolutely rebellious against God get themselves into some kind of scrape, into some kind of distress, and they've been delivered out of it only to think within themselves that they managed to escape by luck, by happenstance, by their own cleverness, but it was none of that. It was God who was behind it, and they're just not giving Him thanks for it. But for those that there comes a point when in their distresses, we have a saying, you made your bed, now sleep in it. You have made this wreckage of your life. Here it is. This is the consequence. This is the consequence for it. Don't turn to God. What do you think you're going to get? A continuation of the wreckage. That's what you're going to get. You're going to get the junk that you have, the junked up life that you have created for yourself. Now, He will deliver us out of our distresses, but that requires a desire for Him and requesting it from Him. He does want that. Does He know what we need? Yes. Would He like for us to go to Him as being the one who can supply it? Yeah, He does. Indeed. Verse 7, and He led them forth by the right way. Notice that they might go to a city for a dwelling place. This is the fact. They have to follow. All right? You can't get to that city for a dwelling place if you're not following God, because He's there to give it. But if you don't like following Him, you're not getting there. All right, if you're not following Him, then you're just, it's like this. Now today is very pleasant. This works best this illustration works best when it's very cold outside. But imagine extremely cold weather. We have not snowing just yet, but it is freezing rain coming down. You're standing outside, drenched, freezing, and you're likely to die. All right, you stay out there, you're likely to die. In front of you is a house, and it's obviously warm inside. Lights are on. It's sheltered. Everything you need seems to be inside that house. And the master of the house, the owner of the house, is saying, come on in. We have more room. Come on in. It's warm. You can get dry. You can be fed. All these things but you've got to go through the door. You've got to go through the door. So what do? People literally, when it comes between them and God giving them everything they want, they don't want it God's way. They want what God gives, they just don't want Him. It's like a teenage boy I once knew. If he could be rich, he loved everything that his parents gave him. He loved it. He loved the house. He loved the well-stocked refrigerator, the pantry, the clean clothes. He loved the meals that just magically appeared on the table. He loved the furniture. He loved that somebody was paying the power bills, though he probably didn't even have a concept of such a thing. But he didn't want his parents living there. He wanted them to move. Go somewhere else. Get your own apartment. But yeah, pay the bills. Yeah, do the laundry and cook the food. Do all these things. I love everything that you give me. I just don't love you. All right, that's a fella heading right down a dead end. There's reality is about to hit him pretty hard. Well, I would have done it years ago. But the thing is, He has promised us a city. He has promised us a dwelling place. But you have to follow Him. That is a must. Now, verse 8. Here is a verse. These words are repeated in this psalm 4 times. Verse 8, verse 15, verse 21, and 31. It's the same words. Oh, that men would give thanks to the Lord for His goodness and for His wonderful works to the children of men. And this speaks of in the days of this psalmist that thankfulness was lacking, that the lack of gratitude is in fact an ongoing concern. The lack of gratitude is kind of like a condition that could be found in any generation. And allow me to tell you, it's bad. Matter of fact, that's exactly what he's saying. It's bad. That men would do this, meaning they're not many of them anyway. They're not doing this. And here, I just put this down for the sake of it. So this is verse 8, 15, 21, and 31. I realize you probably cannot read everything on this, but it is saying the same thing in these verses. But each one of these verses there is a pattern in this. There's a pattern because like in verse 8 followed by verse 9, that finishes off a section. And it goes like this. Oh, that men would give thanks to the Lord for His goodness and for His wonderful works to the children of men. For He satisfies the longing soul and fills the hungry soul with goodness. Why do you need to be thankful? Here is why. And it finishes off that section of the psalm. Then we go to the next section, which once again, oh, that men would give thanks. And then giving to us the reason, verse 16, for He has broken the gates of bronze and cut the bars of iron in two. You've been oppressed. He can resolve it. And that the meek will inherit the earth. The righteous will overcome. That will happen. We come to verse 21, once again, oh, that men would give thanks, and then it goes like this. That verses 9 and 16 talk about why should this be done, whereas verses 22 and 32 talk about other things more that we should be doing. Oh, that men would give thanks. Let them sacrifice the sacrifices of thanksgiving and declare His works with rejoicing. It continues in that thought. Oh, that men would do this. And then goes on here with declare His works with rejoicing. Verse 32, let them exalt Him also in the assembly of the people and praise Him in the company of the elders. The first two sections of this are why should we be thankful? And the last two sections of this to speak of what we should also be doing and in acts of thankfulness. Now, we go to verse 9. For He satisfies the longing soul and fills the hungry soul with goodness. We already mentioned that. Now we skip to verse 43. And here is how it closes. Verse 43 closes it with these words. Whoever is wise will observe these things. Now, for those of us who have been studying the book of Proverbs, when the book of Proverbs says whoever is wise will do these things, that means that if you don't do these things, you're not wise, and there's another word for it. The word is fool. The word is foolish. Foolish is the one that doesn't observe these things. Destroyed is the person who will not do these things. Wise, however, the wise will do these things, and they will understand the loving kindness of the Lord because they have actually taken the time to consider it. They've taken the thought, put the thought into it. And it is important. We sang, count your many blessings. There's too many for me to count, but it's a good exercise. There are things I can't possibly know that He did. Things that went on behind the scenes. Things that went on before I was even born that He did, with me being a beneficiary of it. Maybe I'm not the only one. Maybe everybody is. But He has done so much for us. And just in thinking of my own life, the times when I was very much afraid, times when I was under extraordinary pressure, times when various things had been occurring to me, and He went into action and brought me through. Now, that does not mean that these things take on a miraculous flair to them, because they don't. God still works providentially behind the scenes. Let me give you an example of that. There was a woman by the name of Hannah in 1 Samuel chapter 1. Hannah had no children. She wanted children. She wanted children with all of her heart. You cannot have a more passionate, more sincere, more determined prayer than hers. You can't. There, as far as intent is concerned, as far as going to God is concerned, you cannot blame her and say that her prayer was weak in any sort of way. Yet, God answers that prayer, but not with an immediate boom, there's a child now in front of you, take him home. That didn't happen. It came through time. It is through time that Samuel is born. He doesn't just appear as a 10-year-old boy, hi mom. He doesn't do that. He is going to be born. And so the point of this is one can pray to God, but that doesn't mean it's going to suddenly appear in front of you. It may take time. In due season, in due time, these things will be given in due time. And sometimes we need to have some difficulty because it helps us to grow. And also, we're in a testing ground. What do you think's going to happen? He hasn't given us this world so that we can just lounge around in luxury. We are being tested. He doesn't give us this world so that we can spend our entire existence just being entertained. What kind of useful... Why are you even created if that's all you're going to do? Why are you even created? What a waste. A complete waste. And it would be a waste on His part if that's what He wanted us to be. But it's not. There's a higher, grander purpose than that. Now, let's talk about Israel in the wilderness. Now, we are now talking about them specifically and historically. And we're going to give 5 examples. And these 5 are all in the book of Exodus. And you'd wonder what's wrong with these people. But it's easy to look at the mistakes of others and more difficult to look at the same mistakes you made or that I made. It's easy to look at them and say, tut, tut, they're no good. Where are we doing the same thing? Have we done the same thing? Now, here is a fact. When faith leaves, gratitude goes out the door with it. When faith leaves, it's gone. That is gratitude. Any kind of thankfulness is gone along with it, because having a faith is in fact showing a gratitude, but there should be a thankful attitude that is obviously present. But where there's no gratitude, there is no faith. Where there is no thankfulness, there is a self-centered person, a callous person, a thoughtless person, and someone who disdains what they've been given. To disdain what you've been given. I do know this, that as a child, my parents would give me something they thought that I needed, and probably did, no doubt about it. But it wasn't what I wanted. And so for me, I didn't want it. Was that a disdain? Yeah, in fact it was. It was being disdainful. It was that they had something that it was educational. As a child, I didn't want that. All right. And it was to help me in some way. A sweater? Well, it's going to get cold. These things are to your benefit. All right. And to be disdainful is where God has given us something extraordinary. We can go to the book of Hebrews and look at that of those who have just taken the cross of Christ and run right over it, or counted the blood of Christ as just a common thing, as nothing, when those are extraordinary gifts that have been given to us. Now, Exodus 3 and verse 17. This is God speaking. I will bring you out of the affliction of Egypt. They were now under a very harsh Pharaoh who did not remember, or probably a better rendering of that, did not regard Joseph. You just finished the book of Genesis and everything that occurred in Egypt with Joseph and the great honor and appreciation that they had for him, because Egypt became probably the wealthiest nation of its day at that time, and Pharaoh being the wealthiest man of his day at that time. And now we're generations past that, and now there's a Pharaoh that does not regard Joseph. Joseph, he doesn't even want to hear the name. All right? And so now there's affliction in Egypt toward Israel. And God says He's going to bring them out. Matter of fact, He is going to fulfill the promises made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He's going to fulfill those promises. And they are going to have a land given to them. And did God keep His promise? Did God do exactly what He said He was going to do? You have Egypt that would have been a world power in that day. Someone like Israel could not have gone to war against Egypt. On even ground? No way. No way could they have done it. And there would have been other kingdoms that could not have gone against Egypt. On even ground. Couldn't have done it. But God is going to decimate. He's not going to destroy Egypt. Egypt's still around today. He didn't destroy Egypt. And matter of fact, He says He's not going to. He's going to allow them to continue on. But there is plague after plague after plague until finally a very hard-headed, stubborn, selfish man in Pharaoh decides, okay, they can leave. Did it occur? Yes. Now we come to this. And this is them speaking. And this is a complaint not against Moses, it's a complaint against God. Because they are coming into some kind of hardship, something, and God is testing them. He's not going to allow them to die. Matter of fact, after 40 years, their clothing has not worn out, their shoes have not worn out, and also the day that Moses died at 120, all right, he had ever as much vigor and strength and eyesight as he ever had. All right? Now, because there were no graves in Egypt, have you taken us away to die in the wilderness? Why have you so dealt with us to bring us up out of Egypt? Do you not remember where you were? All right? Egypt wasn't exactly a good place. Egypt, you remember the hardships they were putting you under. You're basically building things for Pharaoh. That's what you're doing. And your free labor, that's what you're doing. And here we have, they are now complaining, and this is a common way that they would do it, is that of doing this thing of, why if you wanted to kill us, just kill us in Egypt. All right? Why'd you take us out here to kill us? As though dead is dead, what does it matter? But here the whole thing of were there no graves in Egypt? Did you have to bring us out to kill us out here? Did you have to do this? And God takes care of them. Did He help them? Yes, He did. He did do that. Exodus 15 and verse 24, and the people complained against Moses, saying, what shall we drink? Did God give them water? Yeah, He did. Repeatedly, He did that. Now, the very one that brought them out of Egypt by a mighty hand, they saw it. They saw the plagues. They weren't affected by them, but they saw them. They are the ones that walked on dry ground at the very bottom of the Red Sea. They're the ones that did it. Enormous walls of water on either side, and they just walked on through. They saw that. The God who did that to Egypt, the God who did that to the Red Sea, somehow is incapable of giving you water. He can. And He did. Is it a good thing that you've done nothing but complain? And once again, you have individuals that they are not thankful for what they have been given. They are being brought into the promise given to Abraham centuries beforehand. That is the intent. God bringing them into that land. And here they can't be thankful for what God has already done and know that He's going to help them here. He's not going to destroy them because He's got a promise to keep. He has a promise and He's going to do it. Exodus 16 and verse 3, oh, that we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the pots of meat and when we ate bread to the full, for you have brought us into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. Now this is bona fide stupidity. All right, I would rather you kill me when I had a full stomach, all right, than kill me when I haven't eaten. All right, that's just dumb. That is bona fide dumb. Because the whole thing, oh, I'm sorry, before I kill you, I got to feed you well. You know, that is not His intent. It was not His intent, but it was His intent to test them. And God never, ever promised this world where we would be free of problems. Get that out of your head, that somehow because there are problems, God is not doing His job. Or just because there are problems, God doesn't exist. That's also bona fide dumb. Because all we have to do is look in His Word, and it teaches us how He operates on this world and what He expects out of us. And also developing as servants, developing as better people, as spiritual people. For you have brought us out of this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with the hunger. Did God feed them? Indeed He does, and He's going to feed them miraculously. In that wilderness, they're going to be spending those years eating what is truly the world's perfect food. Truly is. It's manna. You know, there's certain foods that they may be good for you, but if that's all you ate, something's going to happen. There's going to be a deficiency of something. You can't just focus on one thing. I really love, and fill in the blank, that's all I'm ever going to eat. Okay, that doesn't work so well. But with manna, that is the perfect food. It has everything they need. Whatever we need for us, whatever we need to function, that gave it. Did they have to plant it? No. But they did have to go and pick it up. That's all they had to do. They didn't have to wait for it to grow. It arrived every morning. That's all they had to do. That's everything they had to do. And He does, in fact, feed them. Now we go here to chapter 17. Therefore the people contended with Moses and said, "Give us water that we may drink." So Moses said to them, "Why do you contend with me? Look, notice this. Why do you tempt the Lord?" Because this isn't the first time they've done this. We're going chronological. These different events, different times when they're just complaining. That's what they're doing. Why do you tempt the Lord? Do you know how fine a point this is that you are crossing? You are tempting the Lord. And here is, once again, this has to do with faith. When faith leaves, gratitude leaves with it. It's gone. All right, this very morning, here we are in Exodus chapter 17. This very morning, what did they have for breakfast? What did they have for lunch? What did they have for supper? It was all supplied miraculously for them. God gave it. And suddenly, He can't give you water. After He's done it already, suddenly He can't do it. Does God, how long is He going to, don't tempt Him. Don't test Him. Don't test His patience. That's a bad thing to do. You don't want to do that at all. And here, that's precisely because you haven't supplied what I want right now, therefore, why are you trying to kill us? I can just imagine going to my mom. "I'm hungry, Mom. Are you trying to kill me?" You know? Go at dinner. "Wow, I'm hungry. You're trying to kill me." Is there not? You know, I guess it is playing around in a dangerous game. It's playing around where you're making it seem like God cannot do what He has already been doing. So we go to verse 3. And the people thirsted there for water, and the people complained against Moses and said, "Why is it you have brought us up out of Egypt to kill us and our children and our livestock with thirst?" So Moses cried out to the Lord, saying, "What shall I do with this people? They are almost ready to stone me." I don't think he's exaggerating. They are furious. They are very, very angry. And somehow, they're going to Moses with this, it's nothing but ingratitude and a lack of faith, and blaming God for not supplying when we want it. In Genesis chapter 3, after all of mankind, Adam and Eve, sinned, God could have sent His Son then to save the world. But He doesn't. Before the flood, in the days of Noah, He could have sent His Son to die for the sins of the world, but He doesn't. In the days of Moses, or in the days of David and the kings, in the days of those such as in the dispersion or in the Babylonian captivity, such as in the days of Jeremiah, He could have done it then, but He doesn't. In due season, it is done. In due season is what He will do. Now, at what point did God fail them? Verse 3, chapter 3. Chapter 3, chapter 14, 15, 16, 17. At what point, and here in 17 is where Moses says, "Why do you tempt the Lord? Why are you doing that?" At what point, here's the next question, at what point did they learn? At what point did they learn? Moses had learned, and I'm sure there are others, Caleb would have learned, Joshua would have learned. I'm sure there were some very righteous individuals in there that they, in fact, had learned all this. Being thankless means the following. Being thankless. I'm entitled and God owes me. And every bit of this is a pride and an arrogance. Every bit of it, thinking way too much of yourself. Or just being thoughtless about everything. I need no help, or it is beneath me to be thankful for that. It is beneath me. Choose any one of these, and it sure does look like pride. It sure looks like an arrogance. In Romans 1 and verse 21, in Romans 1, Paul is describing history. And it's history of the Gentile world. And it goes back a distance. But it is answering, why is the Gentile world the way it was? Why is it like that? All right? And it started off with a suppression of the truth. The largest truth, I call it truth number one, and that happens to be God is. God exists. They suppressed that truth. They suppressed it in unrighteousness. That doesn't make it less of a truth. That just means they didn't want to think about it. They didn't want to teach it. They didn't want to make note of it. And everything they received from that was from a consequence of their wickedness. God gave them up to a debased mind. God gave them up to vile passions. He didn't make them do those things. He gave them up to it, which means this, He is trying to stop them, but they won't stop. If you're trying to help somebody and they don't want your help, what do? You probably give them over to whatever it is that they're doing. That's probably what you do. If they don't want your help and they desperately need your help, but they don't want it, there's nothing you can do where they're going to take your help. What do you do? Okay, well, I tried. And that is precisely those words of God gave them over to the darkness of their hearts. That debased mind. And here, as part of that, it states, among all those other descriptive words that are put in there of untrustworthy, unmerciful, that they are whisperers and backbiters, they are vile, they're perverted. It also says, nor were they thankful. They were not thankful at all. They weren't thankful to Him in the least. That is a people in decline. That describes a people that they have turned away from God, and all they got for their effort was every immoral behavior. Not coming from Him. It's life without Him. That's what you get. We need to look at our lives, and those words need to be understood. Wise are those, whoever observes these things, well, that person is going to be wise. Whoever is wise will observe these things and will note, will understand the wonderful works of God, that He has done these things, and He continues daily, by second, to do these things in helping us always. And we must have that heart to be thankful. This morning, let's look at our lives. Judgment will arrive in time, whenever that is. There's no knowing. But final judgment, where we will all stand before the judge selected by the Father, and that is Jesus, the Son of God. He's going to judge every one of us. Are we ready for that? Are we ready to have ourselves examined by Him, our lives, every word, everything? Have we taken His offer for mercy? His offer to be in His house. This morning, if you need to respond to the invitation, if we can help you in any way, we ask that you come as we stand and sing.